All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And right before getting to today's topic, I want to share something with you that I just found out after after playing this very recent session before recording. And as you guys know, in one of my previous videos, I've made it well aware that I have switched to mainly domination because of the spawns and all that kind of stuff from Team Deathmatch. And I literally apologized for, and still apologize for not playing the OBJ for reasons that I've mentioned in that video. And with that being said, I went back and looked at my career stats, and I looked at my average skill rating, and my average skill rating has dropped by at least I would say probably about 450 points. And I've only been at this for a few days. So guys, if you want to know what will likely increase your skill rating more than anything else, it's a combination of two things. Number one, how successfully you play the OBJ. And number two, of course, how often you win. Because my win-loss has gone up, surprisingly so. My kill-death ratio continues to go up. My score per minute is slightly lower, and I'm sure if I played the OBJ harder, it would be significantly higher. And my skill rating, though, has dropped nearly 500 points. And the reason for that is because I am not playing the OBJ. So I would say a really, really big chunk of how you increase that is by successfully playing the OBJ. So win as best you can, play the OBJ as best you can, successfully, obviously, because obviously if you fail to get the points, then obviously that's not going to make a difference at all. It's pretty much the same penalty as not playing the OBJ at all. So and it doesn't matter like if I end up getting like more points and stuff like that. At least I don't think so. I mean, I think it does have to do with the points, because the more points you get, the more OBJ you score, etc., etc. But yeah, playing the OBJ is a really big part of it. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you. So anyway, let's get into today's topic. Now, in this gameplay here, probably that you're going to watch, there's one dude who's usually like a really good player. For those of you guys that have been on stream, you'll see this. You know, his gamer tag is Astonish or something like that, Astonish 2K. And every single time I recognize him in a lobby, he always plays really well. I don't know what happened in this match. I don't know if he lost connection, or I don't know if, he just said, fuck it, my teammates are too bad, I'm not going to stick around. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like it, though. But could be a loss of connection. I don't know. I seriously doubt they rage quit or whatnot. But hey, you never know. Maybe it is possible. Who knows? And this is not throwing shit at the person or anything like that. But, thankfully in this game, though, I was really, really feeling it. I was really in my element. And it kind of reminded me of something very simple. Despite the fact that I was in my element, I was like, man, this doesn't happen as often as it used to. I mean, I'm 40 years old at this point, and I've been playing first-person shooters since 2003, when I first got my hands on Halo Combat Evolved. And then obviously when 2010, 2011 or so came around, I was very much into Black Ops 1. I started playing it more and more, but I obviously played Halo more as well. But I was still a multi-gamer, right? I would spend my time equally between any game I felt like playing, as opposed to now, to where my main bread and butter, meat and potatoes, peanut butter and jelly, so to speak, is first-person shooters, right? Particularly since 2012 with Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which basically just took the vast majority of my time, and just like Call of Duty from 2012 through 2018, like really took the vast majority of my time. And then you know how it went. Played a decent amount of Cold War. Tried the other two that came out before it. Didn't like it, etc., etc. And now XDefiant's got me completely engaged. And obviously, it's been a back and forth with Halo here and there. But like with XDefiant, though, I mean, it reminds me that I am not, that 28 to 30-year-old anymore. I'm 40 now, and there are definitely times where I can start to feel shit slip. And what I mean by that is the reflex is not being there. Now, one thing that I will say that I am very proud of to this day, if there is anything that has improved over time, despite the fact that I am overly aggressive in my play style, one thing that has managed to improve is my decision making overall. However, my shot as well is another thing. Like the accuracy and the muscle memory of being accurate and understanding how that works is something that is still intact. However, when you're talking about things like reflexes, and when you're talking about the milliseconds faster that you can make these split-second decisions in a fast-paced game such as this, or like Call of Duty or something like that. The difference, even though it may be like just a few hundred milliseconds or whatever, it is a huge difference when you're talking about a few hundred milliseconds between the older guy and the younger guy. And we're not just talking about reflexes. We're talking about like how fast you can make that decision really, really quickly, right? It's not just about how fast your reflexes play a role, but how fast you can make that split-second decision. And I find myself almost pausing sometimes. I don't know if this happens to some of you guys, because I know some of you guys are older, but I find myself pausing sometimes, you know, because it's like, it's almost as if my brain gets a brain fart, you know, as I turn to get to another target or something like that. Like it's like it takes an extra split second. And as you guys know, in a game such as this, let alone any game that's a competitive multiplayer shooter, all those things really do make a difference, man. It really, you know, as I continue to get older, one thing that doesn't surprise me whatsoever, there's a bunch of things that don't surprise me actually, but one of the things that don't surprise me is that, like, whenever I look at, for instance, recently, Clayster retired from competitive Call of Duty, and he was older, like the oldest player to retire at 32, which is amazing, right? It just goes to show you one of the best ARs, and he's got 3 rings, 18 plus tournament wins, $1.2 million in tournament wins, prizes and stuff like that. Like, very, very successful, right? And retired at 32. But when you look at some of the other guys that retired, such as Crim6, Scump, and a few others, you're looking at your late 20s. Like, I didn't start to understand how to properly play a game such as this, or such as, you know, a Call of Duty, for instance, you know, back during the classic days up through Black Ops 4. I didn't understand how to play that even properly until I was actually in my late 20s. And even then, comparing then to now, it's like, man, when you start to feel the difference in terms of things slipping, man, it's like, man, it's very interesting because, you know, the mind is a little bit different than the body in a sense. But with that being said, the difference is still apparent when it comes to the younger guy versus the older guy. And just like athletics, even though video games shouldn't really be compared to athletics, at least not very much, you got the older guy who's got this wisdom and experience, and at the same time, you got that younger guy who's also has his youth. And one thing that I will tell all you guys right now that are younger that watch my videos, youth is something that you right now, I guarantee you right now, you know, you say you appreciate it, but you don't truly appreciate it until you get older to where that youth isn't quite there the way it used to be. But right now, every single one of you guys that are younger and they're, you know, you're able to live in the moment a little bit easier. You know, you're just indulging in everything. You're enjoying, you know, your success as far as your physicality, your gaming skills and all that kind of stuff, your reflexes, all that. Every single one of you are taking that for granted. And even for those of you guys that say you're not, you still are, because you haven't gotten to the point to where you've literally experienced a difference. It's kind of like hearing about how good a pizza is and having that pizza, right? You don't truly know it until you have it. So therefore, you don't truly appreciate it until you've experienced it, right? So it's one thing, you know, right now it's just a theory to you younger guys, you know. For the older people in there, it's like, man, we just kind of look back and we're like, shit, man, I mean, there's not a day that goes by where I say to myself, man, and we're not just talking about games, we're talking about life. But like, there's not a day that goes by to where at least once a day I'm like, man, whether it's because I'm having a conversation with somebody or something that happens during the day or something that I see, it's like there's not a day that goes by to where I say, man, I wish I had the knowledge that I have right now, or even that I had 5 years ago when I was younger, right? I wish I had that kind of knowledge now, because everything, as you get older, you know, you get more answers, right? When you're younger, you're wondering about things, right? But then when you get older, a lot of these questions get answered through experience, right? So you've got that going for you. But at the same time, you've paid for it, right? You've lost that little bit of edge that you once had, right? Your knife may still be sharp, but it's not quite as sharp as it used to be. Even if it's just a difference, it is a difference that you notice. And the thing is, like, when I play a game like XDefiant, one thing that I will say is that there are moments to where I am able to at least temporarily, like, grasp some of the stuff, some of the consistency that I used to have, or some of the, like, there's a bit of that in there. You know what I mean? I'm sure those you guys that I'm sure somebody's going to be watching this video and they'll understand what I'm saying. And I hope you say something in the comments section, please. but what I'm saying is, like, every once in a while, you find yourself being in a groove, right? Whenever you play this game or whatever else you're playing, you can just feel it. You know, for those of you guys that play basketball, you know how sometimes you just feel like you can't miss a shot because you can feel it. The ball feels good in your hands before it even slides off, before it rolls off your fingers when you take your shot. You know what I mean? You're just, you know, you've got the hot hand. You know, it's kind of like that with a multiplayer first person shooter, your shot and everything like that. Just like you have your off days and you have your on days. And every once in a while, you're just dialed in, you're focused, and it's like, even for a temporary period of time, whether it's one match or whether it's one session or whatever it is, you feel like that younger version of yourself again. But this time it's amazing because you've got the wisdom to go with it that you've accumulated all these years, right? All these questions that you were wondering about when you were younger, you have answers to now, right? So it's like, man, and that's one of the things that I wanted to mention about to a certain extent with a game like XDefiant is, it's like, every once in a while when that does happen, it's a really good feeling, and it's really kind of interesting how a game can make me feel like that, and how a game can every so often remind me. And I also watch other people. You know, I watch a lot of other people that have grown with me during this time, because I've been doing this whole YouTube thing for almost a decade now. Come mid-April, it's going to be a decade. So one thing that I've watched is, I've watched some of these other guys, you know, like, for instance, you know, your retired pro gamers, but at the same time, there are a few other guys, like, for instance, there's one guy called Eli the Ninja, and he's a former Halo 2, Halo 3 pro, and right now he does coaching and stuff like that. He even does some of the casting for the professional scene or whatnot. He's even coached pro players, believe it or not, because of what he has to offer from all the old days and stuff. And there's certain things that they can see that even the younger pros can't, because right now, when you look at current games, they've increased in speed, and it just plays completely different, not just because of speed, but also because the way the games themselves are built. Kind of like how Black Ops 2 plays compared to what COD games play now. It's like, yeah, no wonder the Dynasty, the OG, you know, Dynasty Optic, you know, Crimson Scump, Karma, and Formal, for instance, right? It's like, you know, Formal's still competing in Halo, but like, it's like, no wonder these guys had an upper hand in Black Ops 2, specifically the other three that are not Formal, because Formal didn't play Black Ops 2. I think he was playing Halo at the time. And the thing is, like, when you got that amount of knowledge and that amount of experience in that game that was when you were in your prime, and you play it today against the best of the best. Now, granted, if the best of the best today were to practice, I'm sure the results would be even better. But it wasn't the first time they did that. But there's just something different about how games used to be back in the day, in terms of how they were created and the way they were played, and how positioning and stuff like that mattered compared to things like reflexes. It just goes to show you that wisdom, at the end of the day, does prevail, which is why it's so important for people like, let's say, of my generation, to make sure that the generation that comes after us ends up being more wise than we ever were. I feel like it's like a responsibility for us to do that. And this is no different when it comes to gaming. You know, you can't, you know, words of wisdom are something that you can never really take for granted. And you know, the man that raised me was my stepdad, and in 2016 he passed away. And I can tell you, to this day, I hear him oftentimes a lot more than I did previously, like when he was still around. Not because I didn't listen to him, because I listened to him very, very well. As a matter of fact, me listening to him is what allows me to hear him to this day. But the words of wisdom and the bombs that he used to drop on me, in terms of his wisdom, his experience, and all that kind of stuff, his analogies, are things that always come back to me in life, in pretty much every aspect. And I find myself just, you know, thanking him continuously to this day, because those words of wisdom live on forever. So, you know, I think that's very important. So it's like, wow, and you know, this particular gameplay, I don't know if we've gone long enough for there to be a second gameplay, but The first original gameplay that you've seen on here kind of, it really made me think, and it really inspired this video, because it's like, how old is too old when it comes to gaming, right? Because it's a gray area. It hasn't even been fully explored yet. The competitive scene has only existed for, it's still very much in its youth. There's still more and more things being discovered. It's very interesting. How old is too old? Because some of these guys that I grew up with who are slightly younger than me, and what I mean by slightly younger is like we're talking 4 to 6 years at the most, that I watched, that were some of the best players in terms of, like, let's say pubs, for example, are still like kicking ass today. Now, granted, they'll admit that they're not in their prime, and they could probably see a difference. But despite all that, because of their experience and because of the fact that the majority of what they were able to do in their youth, they're still able to do now, even though their sword may not be quite as sharp, they're still able to, to display what they display. And I watch it to this day, and I'm in full admiration of it. Guys like Pwn Stars, even though he hasn't played on controller since 2015 or 2016, I'm still amazed as to what he could do on PC. And even back during the days 10 years ago, like, it was still amazing what that man was able to do on controller. XCal, for instance, he plays on PC now too. So it really is amazing to see some of these guys continue to do what they do and to do it well. And, I guess old habits die hard, and there are certain things that just never leave you. Muscle memory is real, muscle memory is permanent. But, there's certain things that don't leave you. But at the same time, I can't help but feeling some shit slip. So it's like there's got to be in give or take. Life, finds a way, as as it's been said in Jurassic Park. And the thing is, life has to have a certain balance. So, for every action, there's got to be a reaction. There's got to be opposites and stuff like that. So I just kind of wanted to share this video with you. I know it's not a popular video. I know it's but I don't care, though. It's coming from the heart. It's coming from the soul. It's something that I just wanted to have a discussion with you guys. And for those of you guys that are generous enough to say something in the comment section about this, please do so, because I know that there are those of you that are even older than me that have been at this for even longer. There are those of you guys that are slightly below my age, and then there are some of you guys that are exactly my age. And again, there's a handful of you guys that are young, that are still in your youth, and you're in your prime, and you're kicking ass. So it's like, and I just kind of wanted to make this video and share it. So, but yeah, anyway, I'm going to end it here before I go on for another God knows how long. So anyway, guys, yeah, I just, thank you all for taking the time to watch and or listen. I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one.